Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen. On the July 22nd, 2022, the Trudeau government announced a plan to reduce nitrogen emissions from fertilizer use. Canadian government's plan to reduce fertilizer-related emissions by 30% by 2030. The rationale is that this will help with the climate crisis. However, many provinces, such as Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, are already crying foul and are urging the federal government to reconsider. Farmers are downright worried and angry. If met, these goals could decimate their income and would cause food supply to lower and prices to soar, which affects you, the consumer, at the grocery store. Just take a look around the world to see where similar policy was implemented and what happened afterward. In Sri Lanka, for example, they banned organic fertilizers and food production was cut in half. People, of course, started to riot. Or take a look at the Netherlands, where just this past summer, farmers revolted against a similar Dutch policy and protests blocked highways and cities for days on end. And is this surprising? When a policy is introduced which threatens one's livelihood, we'll expect a reaction. So is this plan really necessary? Is fertilizer really a great threat to the environment? And what are the long-term consequences for farmers and you, the food consumer? Well, joining me now to unpack it all is former Canadian Minister of Agriculture, Gerry Ritz. Minister Ritz, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate having you back on again.
Well, you're going to get a backlash if you say minister. You have to say former.
Former minister. My apologies. Former minister. Exactly. So yeah, I'm glad you're joining me. You've spoken out about this issue, in the news, and I appreciate that. But many of our viewers may not fully understand this policy. So unpack it for us.
Well, it's been spun that it's somehow going to help them hit their climate targets. Nothing could be further from the truth, because the bigger the crop, the more carbon that's sequestered, and that's supposedly the target. The problem that we have, and as you mentioned in your run-up, Sri Lanka, they chased the president out of the country. In Holland, they were going to take 11,000 farms out of production to meet their goals. Guess what? Farmers started spreading manure in front of government offices and said, here's your fertilizer. And I think we need to do the same type of thing here in Canada. The biggest fertilizer spreader we have is Trudeau and his cabinet crew. They're going beyond their targets, but they're flying all over the world to make these goofy announcements and so on. And that flies in the face of what they say they're trying to do. The problem with attacking fertilizer is you're attacking a farmer's ability to do the best he can, the most efficient, effective, economical way to grow that product that Canadians need and that we export. 50% on average of what we grow and produce gets exported. That's a huge amount of money back into our GDP. At one point, agriculture was the third largest contributor to that GDP, with processing and so on. That's all going south because of the carbon tax for starters, and of course, a lot of other regulations that they're bringing on. There's no agricultural heroes at the cabinet table. Just followers that are going along with whatever Trudeau dictates that day. It's ridiculous.
So let's talk about this, though, for a moment, because there are those who are concerned about the environment. And so this policy has been put forward as perhaps a solution to one component of climate crisis. Is this true? Will this reduction of fertilizer-related emissions, will that actually help the climate?
Well, Canada is 1.6% of the global climate problem. Yes, there's a problem, but it's not us. 1.6%. That's a rounding error. Yes, we're doing better than we ever did. Farmers have already addressed this in the way that they farm their land, especially in Western Canada, these large tracts of land with continuous cropping, which means that carbon that's sequestered stays in the ground. It doesn't leach back out. They're given no credit for that at all. They operate their farms the most effective way they can. Fertilizer is a huge investment. They don't spread more than they need. They don't use more than they need. And they now do it in a way where they map the field with soil samples. That goes up to the cloud and then directs the GPS controls on their air seeders, their sprayers, their combines for that matter. And it then puts the right amount of product in the right place at the right time. So they're already following all these rules, but they get no credit for it unless they change the way they run their operation. That's ridiculous. There's no retroactivity in this program, only harm going forward.
Okay, I want to talk about that in a moment because, Canadians, the agricultural sector is seen as being one of the more environmentally friendly in the world. And I want to talk about how, and as you suggested, it's maybe not being recognized by our own government, but maybe how it's seen around the world. We're going to unpack this and several other issues surrounding this potential fertilizer ban in just a few moments. We'll be right back.